Good morning. Today is December 30th. The temperature outside is supposed to get to -9 Celsius, which is 15 Fahrenheit. For the remainder of the winter, we're going to be doing the work inside the basement. Then I'll take the stuff over to the bus and install it then. The reason being is it's warmer in the basement and I can't work outside because of the snow and everything. And it gets kind of cold, so I'm going to have to do it this way. Today's little project, and I mean little, is just the countertop for the bathroom. I decided to do this, sort of like a butcher block kind of thing. I'm using 2x2s. It's going to be 18 inches this way, or thereabouts, and 31 3/8 the width of the bathroom, that way. I wanted all this knotted stuff and this different colors and everything to go with the look of the bus. I think it's going to look pretty good inside. I'm not going to be staining this with the regular stain. I'm actually going to whitewash this counter. The bathroom has a lot of brown in it right now, and it's probably going to get pretty dark in there. So I want something to lighten up the mood of the bathroom, if you want. So I'll put you up on the tripod and I'll show you what I'm going to do here. So I'm pretty much going to do the same thing as I did with the kitchen counter. I'm going to glue all these pieces together, use the clamps, clamp it together, let that dry, cut this thing down to size, and then paint it, put a layer of Varathane on it, then I'm going to epoxy it. A carpenter buddy of mine suggested something though. That when I'm gluing it, don't just put a bead on, then squish them together. Put the bead on, smear it, put a bead on this side, smear it, then squish them together. Apparently it makes a difference. I'm not going to argue. So now we're going to let that sit for the next couple of hours. I'll come by later, scrape all the excess glue off camera, and you don't need to see me doing that. I'm going to get some heavy-duty sandpaper, 40 grit if I have any, and I'll sand down the piece of lumber here. Will I do that off camera? I don't know. I might. So I'll smooth that all down, get it nice and finished. Then I'll paint it, put the Varathane on. The Varathane is just to make sure that there's no holes. It'll fill up the holes, so when I go to put the two-part epoxy on, that the epoxy won't drip through. So, see you in a few hours. And hopefully I'll have this nice and clean and you can take a better look at it. Well, I saved you the torment of watching me sand this down for 2 hours. That was damn boring. You would have been so bored watching me do that. So now I'm going to put a layer of paint on this. Then possibly later on a second layer. I just want to see how well it's going to cover. So let's get that going. If I knew which brush it was. This brush? This brush. With the amount of yellow coming through from the wood that's coming through the paint, I'm going to have to definitely do a second coat. So I'll let this dry and I'll come back and I'll do a second coat, possibly even a third. I want a nice white finish, but I still want to be able to see all the grain and all the different colors and everything. So we'll just have to see what happens. Be back shortly. Well, let's wait for this to dry and see what it looks like. I'm liking the color. It looks pretty good. Yeah, this is probably going to work. See you shortly. So I let the paint dry for a while. And now I'm going to give it a nice little sand down. Nothing major, just to get the roughness off. Maybe get it down to the wood a little bit more. The second coat put a little too much paint on. Then I'll wipe it down with a damp sponge and you can have a look. see what you think. Okay, one spot I need to touch up with some paint. It rubbed off, unfortunately. It's too white for you to notice any of the differences. Like that piece right there, you can see I'm liking this. I like this a lot. In person is a lot better than what I see on the LCD right now. This spot right here I have to touch up. It's pretty bad. Not too good. Not a fan of that. Here it's a little too light as well. I can see the grain, but I see the wood as well. So I'm just going to touch it up with a little bit of paint. Let that dry real quick. Then we'll put the Varathane on. So I'll let that sit for a few minutes, let it dry. Then we'll put the Varathane on. Then tomorrow, maybe later tonight, I don't know. It's getting pretty late right now, it's like 8 o'clock or something. We'll put the 2-part epoxy on. Okay, be back shortly. Okay. So my little patchwork paint job is dried up, relatively. I'm going to turn on my little laser level here, see how level this is. I need this pretty much perfectly level for when I go to put on the epoxy. The epoxy is self-leveling and it will just run to the lowest point, so I don't want that. There we go. Three and 1/8. 3 1/8, and I'm in the way. 3 1/8, just a little over 3. That'll work. That'll work nicely. It's not exactly perfectly level, but it will work. Now I'll give this a quick little coat of Varathane just to make sure we have all the cracks filled up with something, so this way when I put the epoxy on, it won't leak, it won't seep through. So now we'll let this dry. I'll see what time it is and perhaps call it a day. Yeah, I'm going to call it a day. This way, first thing tomorrow morning, there'll be no air movement down here, and then I can set this up properly for the epoxy. That sounds like a plan. Alright, so that's it for today. Catch you next time. Welcome back to day 2 of making this bathroom countertop. Today we're going to put the 2-part epoxy resin on, mixing container, the 2-part epoxy, and the brush. This kit for the resin says it should do 8 square feet. This is a little shy of 6. I'm still going to use the entire thing. Why not? Doesn't hurt. Now, in ideal conditions, they say we should be doing this in a dust-free zone. I failed horribly in that section. Hopefully it won't get too bad. As soon as I put this on, I won't be moving down here anymore or checking on it, so it should stay in place. The dust should stay in place, that is. And I saw a little chunk of something fly down already. Oh, I forgot my blowtorch. The blowtorch is used to get rid of the big bubbles. But I do notice a few problems. It looks like it's skinned up or something, I don't know. And there's a chunk of something here. And there's another one right here. And there's another one right there. How strange. So now I'm just going to let this sit for a couple of hours, come back, take a look at it again, see how things are going, maybe blowtorch it again. But when it's finally dry, that's when I'll show you when it's done. Instead of turning the camera back on, doing a little bit of blowtorching. So, see you in about 24 hours. I believe that's how long it takes for this stuff to dry. It says somewhere. So until then, have a good one. Well, the countertop didn't turn out quite perfect. There's quite a few little spots where I had a lot of bubbles and it just didn't come together properly. But still, really, really good. I'm not sure how well you can see any of this, but I like it. This spot right here, where the knots were, that turned out pretty good. That knot right there at the bottom of the screen-ish. Yeah, I like it. This is going to be good. Well, the sides I'm going to have to, not the sides, but the underneath I'm going to have to clean up a little bit before I put it on the counter. Yeah, I like that. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see the bubbles. I'll just do this. Anyway, that's that done. And that's it for this. So that's it for this episode. Until next time, have a good one.